everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about something that is more of like a serious topic, and that is dealing with what I call FauxCD, or fake OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, ever since I was really young, people like my parents, people that knew me, friends, etc., have always said that I am very OCD. And it's definitely something that like I've recognized in myself. But I've never really been formally diagnosed with like OCD officially. Now, probably one of the major reasons I've never been like officially diagnosed is that in my life, this like FauxCD, whatever it is, real OCD, who knows, whatever, it's never been like a major problem for me. It's never like controlled my life or like made me feel like my life was horrible or ruined. And so it was never something like my parents were like, we need to take her to a doctor to get this figured out, because it really was nothing that needed to be figured out necessarily. And I would say for me that this like FauxCD has definitely like manifested itself with like obsessive needs to like organize and clean, and anxiety over things and their place in my life, and sometimes like obsessing over topics. And really, like, I'm laughing about it. It's not like, this isn't meant to be like a funny video or a joke, and I guess I should just go ahead and throw in a disclaimer now that I'm not a medical professional, clearly. Like I said, I've never been like diagnosed with OCD, and OCD to me is like not a laughing matter. Like, I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's a joke. And this video isn't meant to be like portraying it in any sort of light, because I realize it is like a very serious disorder that many people struggle with. And because it's kind of something that like I think falls on like a spectrum with a lot of different sorts of, I guess like other things that can go along with it, like kind of like other tendencies or other diagnoses that go along with being OCD, that it really is like a very complex subject. And I don't mean to like make light of it. I know it's serious. This isn't supposed to be funny, but I'm talking about like my own experience being like an undiagnosed sufferer, perhaps, of OCD. But really the reason I'm talking about this is to kind of share with you guys like ways that I deal with these obsessive feelings in my own head. Like I said earlier, OCD, what I do understand of it is that it is something of like a spectrum. It can be very subtle and it can be very severe. And I think a lot of people, you know, toss around the term OCD, and it gets people who do have OCD or know people who have OCD a little bit up in arms, because maybe they're not using the term in a way that's respectful, which is why I'm calling this FauxCD, because I don't know if I have OCD. I may very well have OCD that's like on a lesser spectrum. But I think that a lot of people deal with these sorts of moments and times and subjects that create like obsessive tendencies and compulsive tendencies. And so I thought I would talk to you guys about how I deal with it in my own life, because I feel like there may be a good amount of people who watch my videos that may also relate to this. So if you're someone who has OCD, I'm not making fun of you, not saying anything negative. You've got your own struggles. This is not meant to be a medical guide to help anyone who does have OCD. It's just kind of like a conversation between friends about something that affects my life that may also affect your life. So that is my disclaimer. So how does my FauxCD manifest itself? Ever since I was younger, I've been like obsessive about keeping my stuff organized. My parents used to do this thing, and they thought it was so freaking funny. I used to keep my room like immaculately organized, and what they would do is when I went to school, my mom would go into my room and mess with my shit. Like, she would move one thing like somewhere else, or like swap the position of like 2 items in my room. Like something that you'd never even notice that someone came into your room and touched things, but as soon as I'd walk into my room, I would see in my mind, like I'd feel a sense of anxiety that something wasn't where I put it. And like my mom thought this was funny. And like maybe it is funny. Like I can see humor in that. But you know, it's something that like I have this sense, like this spider sense, when things are not balanced the way that I've put them out. And there's no like right and wrong way to organize. If you guys have seen any of my like organizational videos or my stationery file effects videos, everyone has their own way of organizing that makes sense to them and feels right to them. So for me, it would be, you know, messing with my stuff, moving things around, like would cause anxiety for me. And there's other things that would cause anxiety for me in my FauxCD. You know, I tend to get really obsessive about things like subjects. If I learn about something, I think it's interesting and I get like obsessed with it. I sometimes get obsessed with like colors and patterns and like products and things like that. And like kind of, maybe to some people it would seem like unnatural, but to me it's like stripes, like black and white stripe. If you guys have watched my videos, followed me on Instagram, you know that I like things that are black and white stripe. Like look at this top, it's even like black and white stripe. But I will go through like phases where I'll like obsessively buy things that have that pattern on it, like no matter like really what it is, which this is where like it stops being like, okay, it's kind of interesting that I've got this FauxCD because I keep everything organized, and then it's moving into like, oh, this is like you're buying things that you shouldn't buy and things like that. So I have this condition, it manifests itself in different ways, and there are different like coping mechanisms that I have had to use to kind of keep myself under control so I don't like spiral out of control. Now this sounds like I should go see a therapist or something to get fully diagnosed, but like it's not so major in my life that I feel like I need to go see someone. Maybe some of you would think, yeah, it sounds like you should. But like for me, it's not that much of a problem. It's not that much of inconvenience, especially because I do have these coping mechanisms. So what are these coping mechanisms? Number one is I like to make lists. And I think that with FauxCD, one of the reasons that I love planners and file faxes and things like that is because it kind of gives me this sense of control in my life, that I have a plan. Like I know what I'm going to do in the day. I know what my tasks are. I know what I have to work on and what I have to think about in a day. So it kind of lessens anxiety of feeling like I'm out of control, my life's out of control, spiraling into the abyss. And that's one of the reasons I said I think that a lot, like many of my followers may find this to be an interesting topic that pertains to them, because I know that a lot of people who watch this also watch file faxes, who watch my videos also love file faxes and planners and things like that. And I feel like in that community, there are people definitely, and I think that I almost feel like anyone who like loves planners and loves being organized has like a vein of this in their own life, even if it's not as like severe as what what I'm describing. I just feel like that this phenomenon of FauxCD, as I'm calling it, like can really be held in control and held at bay when we feel like we've got control and we've got a plan. So making lists for me, making lists in my planner, scheduling items out, that helps me to kind of feel in control and to lessen my anxiety. The second thing that I do that's like a coping mechanism is acquire less stuff. And I mean that in like the material sense and also in a mental sense. Materially, like I said, I can get obsessed with things, and often I will just buy things because I absolutely love them and bring them home, and it'll be like, oh my God, I'm in a dilemma because this thing really doesn't have any useful purpose in my life and in my home. And so it causes me stress and anxiety that I've spent money that I shouldn't have spent, and it just kind of causes me like mental anguish. So by actually thinking through my purchases before I buy them, like knowing that I have a use for something, and even like that old adage that I pretty much live by, which is, a place for everything and everything in its place. If what I'm going to buy doesn't really have a place, then I try to pass on it, like as much as I can. And like I said, acquiring less stuff can also be like a mental thing for me. I think I mentioned earlier that I can get obsessed with ideas and like concepts. So even something as simple as like researching, topics online, I can fall into like a rabbit hole of information that can take me a really long time to get through. I really tend to get really obsessed with like knowledge and learning, and something like reading an article on, I don't know, the Huffington Post about like quantum theory can cause me to spiral into like a research like obsession really, where I'll start buying books, reading websites for like days, watching documentaries for like sometimes like it could be like a week or two where I'll be like obsessed with a topic and it'll be all I can think about and all I want to like read about or learn about is this topic. And that might be like, okay, that's cool, you like to learn, but like when I have other things to do during the day, and this is kind of interfering with my life, it kind of can get very disruptive. So if I like make a solid effort to like not like kind of put blinders on and be like, I'm focusing on the thing that I need to focus on and I'm not going to fall down like a wormhole of information that helps me to acquire less mental stuff that kind of sends me spiraling. So acquiring less stuff, that's number 2. Number 3 is exercising ownership of my own things, not others. So one of the problems with my FauxCD is that I also feel the need to control other people and their things as well. And, you know, this can be funny, like in the beginning, like you go to a friend's house and you're like, oh, let me help you organize something because it's like setting off my OCD in my own head. But really, it can be really invasive when you're like feeling the need to organize other people and other people's possessions. And I'll give you a really good example of this. Like when I lived with my grandmother after college, she had a lot of stuff. And I was living in one room of her multi-bedroom house and she had all of her own stuff and things like that. And I was like, oh, I would really want to organize this stuff. It's driving me crazy, like living with all of this stuff, but she just wouldn't let me do it. So in order to live like peacefully in my own mind, I had to like divorce myself from her possessions. It's like her possessions are disorganized. They're not my possessions. I don't have control over them. I have to divorce myself from this situation. So by exercising that sort of thought process of, I know that I can control my own things and I cannot control other people's things no matter how disorganized they are, that helped me to stay in my own like tranquil, like peaceful mind, that my things were at least under control even if I couldn't control other people's stuff. And this is something that I still like work on like with my husband in our home that we obviously share. You know, he has things that, you know, he has lying around or things that he likes to keep that I don't really see a purpose for. And maybe like I don't like them, but I can't just get rid of them because they're his things. So I have to like divorce myself from like responsibility of those items so that I can live with them in my own home peacefully. So exercising that sort of like restraint that I know I can only control my own things, I can't control other people's. It's something that I have to work on, definitely, but it's something that I keep as like a coping mechanism in order to keep my own mind like sane. The next sort of coping mechanism, like life adage that I use to keep myself sane with my FauxCD is check yourself before you wreck yourself. Now, I know when I'm getting obsessive, usually because I feel like a discomfort in my own mind and body. So when I feel that way, it's like I have to stop and evaluate the situation. And it really helps when I recognize that I'm in like an obsessive pattern to say, hey, wait a minute. You're getting an obsessive pattern. I know you are because you're feeling discomfort and you really need to stop and look at the bigger picture to see if you need to stop, you know, continuing this downward spiral of like obsessive or compulsive, like needs to do things, and get back to like reality and to your to-do list and your file facts. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. I mean, I know my own signs and symptoms. You may know your own. Try to be aware of that and kind of have like a game plan. Like, I'm going to go look at my file facts and see what I need to do. Like, I know there's other things I could be spending my time on other than obsessing about miscellaneous things. And then the final coping mechanism I use is that I like to use an external guide to help me through tough situations. And right now, I'm using, I've shown this before in a previous month's favorites video, but this is Miracles Now by Gabrielle Bernstein. It's just a book that has, what does it say, 108 life-changing tools for less stress, more flow, and finding your true purpose. Now, I don't necessarily suggest that everyone has to go out and buy this who like thinks they suffer from FauxCD. And I've talked about this in a video before, that the way I like to use this is whenever I'm feeling stress, I like close my eyes and open up to a page and I read the message that's on there, because they're just like all of these little messages that are only like a page or two long, with sorts of different, just like different things that you can do, like different mantras, different like workouts or like yoga poses or like breaths that you can do to kind of keep your stress down. And I like let the universe guide me. I open up this guide and I let it lead me to what the solution is, and I accept that as being like the solution to my problem. So for you, it might be a different external guide, like maybe you like to read the Bible or whatever your religious text is, or maybe you have another like self-help book or something like that that you like to use. And maybe you don't even use a self-help book, like maybe you have another method in your life, like whatever it is that you believe in that will help you control stress. Like I go to that when I kind of am in that mode of like check yourself before you wreck yourself. And then I go to the guide that helps me work through my stress in the moment so that I can get over it, and then I can continue on my to-do list, like in my FauxCD or my planner, like my general life plan that keeps me on track and out of these sorts of obsessive situations. So yeah, that's like my 5-step plan coping with my FauxCD. So this is a pretty long video. I'm going into like 17 minutes now, something like that. And so I think we'll leave it at that. Like I said, I hope that some of you feel like a connection to this video, like it may also pertain slightly to you and that you've learned something from this. Feel free to shoot me any comments or thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know maybe other coping mechanisms that you have or anything that particularly resonated with you. If you liked this video, if you felt like it was something that dealt with issues that you also have, go ahead and give this video a like so that I know that I'm not the only one and that I wasn't just talking to myself for 20 minutes about something that's my own personal problem. Yeah, so give it a like, and of course subscribe for more videos from me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So we'll talk later. Bye-bye. So basically it's just Greek yogurt, fruit, a little bit of honey, and some cinnamon, and it all mixes up together, and it's basically like, like a fruit and yogurt parfait.